Hello everybody, welcome back. It's now the first weekend in November, and as you can see behind me, the woodland's looking a little bit more bare now. There's quite a lot of the trees are losing the leaves. The bottom end of the wood typically gets more bare over the winter. There's more trees here that lose the leaves, and it does look a little bit more thin than further up. So I'm out here recording the What's Been in the Wood in October video. I've got all the videos off the trail camera now, and I'm just got to record the introduction and then compile everything together. So I hope you'll join me in watching What's Been in the Wood in October. The 1st of October. Wildlife in the wood in October seemed to be dominated by cats. While I've only caught them on camera at night, there appears to be 7 different cats that regularly pass through the wood. There was also a rabbit visit during the early evening. There was only one brief rabbit capture on the 2nd. The only captures on the 3rd were several different cats. The cat with the white patches on its back we've seen in the garden in daytime. The patches on his back are sort of arrow-shaped, so we've nicknamed him Chevron. Soon after midnight on the 4th, one of the foxes made an appearance. Five hours later, one of the cats passed through. Chevron made a pre-dawn visit on the 5th. Then the fox and one of the other cats came during the evening. The only capture on the 6th was a magpie. In the early hours of the 7th, one of the foxes visited. I think this fox was one of this year's cubs. Around 25 minutes later, one of the cats jumped up on the bird table. I don't know if it could smell the seed or the birds that had been there. The camera is set to record for 1 minute if triggered, before pausing for 10 seconds. On the next capture, the cat was down by the pond. In the pre-dawn light, the bird table and pond had some visits. The day ended with the black cat passing through the wood. Just before 3 a.m. on the 8th, there was a brief rabbit visit. And then at the end of the day, Chevron and the black cat were back. Another cat came after midnight on the 9th. Despite the infrared image, I think this is a black, white and brown cat. A little over 2 hours later was the other black and white cat. By around 10 a.m, the bird table was busy with small birds, and I had another camera watching over the pond. Videos from that appear on my YouTube shorts. I'd set the camera to run for longer into the morning for a few days, but with the shorter autumn days, the solar panel wasn't charging the battery as much, so I didn't leave it that way. Not long after 4 AM on the 10th, the camera caught a hedgehog in the wood. I don't know if hedgehogs are territorial, and it's the same hedgehog I've seen before, or whether there are multiple hedgehogs that visit. They aren't regular visitors to the wood, with the camera catching perhaps one a week on average. At 5 AM, the cat which appears to be Cream made an appearance. I think it could be Cream, but it's hard to tell in an infrared image, as my grey fleece coat also appears a similar colour. By 9 AM, the bird table and pond were busy, starting with a ring-necked dove. I think it's a female blackbird getting washed in the pond too. Back on the bird table, there's a tree sparrow. I don't know enough about birds to know whether they are seasonal, but despite having cameras out in the woods since late January 2025, I don't recall seeing any tree sparrows until October. The 11th began with what looked like fighting amongst the birds. The blackbirds seem to be very defensive of their space, whether eating or having a bath. They'll chase any other bird away from their space. The dunnocks wait nearby and dash in for a drink when there's an opportunity. When the blackbirds do take a bath, they're often there for quite a while. Not long after 10 PM that evening, the rabbit was back. The hedgehog made another appearance in the early hours of the 13th, but unfortunately was hidden behind the tree for much of the video. The magpie came for a drink at 9 AM, but that was it for captures for the day. The rabbit was the only visitor on the 14th, arriving about 11 PM. It spent some time by the pond eating birdseed. It's one of many animals that I've noticed that spend quite a lot of time just sitting by the tree. I don't know why this is and what's special about that spot. The 15th began with a cat at 1:20 in the morning. 4 hours later, Chevron passed the pond, heading down the wood. Everything was quiet until early evening, when a robin arrived on the bird table before swooping down for a bath in the pond. Chevron came back again at 7:20 p.m. 24 hours later, Chevron made another patrol through the wood. 40 minutes after that, the hedgehog was back. I think he must have had a flea problem, as he was constantly scratching. There was only one brief rabbit capture on the 17th. The 18th was quiet until the evening, when at 10:30 the black and white cat made an appearance. He sniffed around at some food left for the hedgehog for about a minute before moving on. Another cat arrived at midnight on the 19th and hung around for about 5 minutes before moving on. The hedgehog made yet another brief appearance at 3:21 and ran off behind the tree again. It rained for most of Tuesday the 21st, so one brief cat video is all that was recorded that day. The hedgehog was the only capture on the 22nd. Chevron passed through the wood at 3:46 in the morning. There was a brief fox capture behind the tree at 11:46. That was it for the 23rd. Chevron was back again at 4 a.m. on the 26th. He made a number of passes through the wood until his last walk through at 5:44. It was then quiet until 10:20 p.m. when the longer-haired cat turned up. He could probably smell Chevron. The same cat was back at midnight on the 27th, followed by chevron 3 hours later. There were no captures on the 28th, but the black, white and brown cat appeared at midnight on the 29th. A little over an hour later, the longer-haired cat made a brief appearance, followed by chevron 4 hours after that. 2 hours later, the ring-necked dove made a pre-dawn appearance. The first capture of the 31st was the fox, just before 5 in the morning. Just 5 minutes later, Chevron was back at the pond having a drink. He was the last visitor for October. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos and consider liking and subscribing. Cheers!